teeth through their laughter like a blade. Sarah's wine glass shattered on the floor. James jumped up, straightening his loosened tie. Mike! Sarah's face went from flushed to pale in an instant. What are you? You're supposed to be. Supposed to be what, Sarah? Driving to Wisconsin while you fuck your boss in our house. James had the decency to look uncomfortable. I should go. No, please stay, I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Let's all have a nice chat about how long this has been going on. What happened next played out like a scene from a bad movie. Sarah crying, James attempting to explain, me standing there with 9 months' worth of evidence on my phone. The sound of the front door opening stopped us all cold. Emma stood there, having convinced my sister to drop her off early. She took one look at the scene, her mother's tears, the strange man in our kitchen, the broken wine glass, and ran upstairs. Her sobs echoed through the house, a soundtrack to the death of our perfect family. That moment changed everything. It wasn't about me anymore, or Sarah, or her affair. It was about 2 children whose world was about to be turned upside down. As James slipped out the back door, I looked at Sarah, really looked at her for the first time in months. She seemed smaller somehow, vulnerable in a way I hadn't seen before. The kids, she whispered, mascara running down her cheeks. Oh God, what have I done to our kids? I had no answer for her. Upstairs, Emma's door remained firmly shut, her muffled cries a constant reminder of the collateral damage of adult choices. Noah would be back soon, still blissfully unaware that his life was about to change forever. The perfect facade had finally crumbled, leaving us standing in the ruins of what we'd built together. I grabbed a blanket and pillow from the hall closet. I'll sleep in the basement, I said, my voice hollow. We'll figure out how to tell Noah tomorrow. Sarah reached for my arm, but I pulled away. Mike, please, we can fix this. I turned to look at her one last time before heading downstairs. Can we, Sarah? Can we really? The basement felt appropriate. Cool, dark, and empty, just like my heart. Above me, I could hear the floorboards creak as Sarah paced our bedroom. Our bedroom. Nothing felt like ours anymore. Everything was tainted now. Every memory called into question. I lay on the couch, staring at the ceiling, wondering how many nights she had laid in our bed thinking of him. My phone buzzed with texts from my sister, asking what had happened with Emma. I couldn't bring myself to respond. How do you put this kind of betrayal into words? How do you explain to your family that the life you thought you had was built on lies? The next morning, I woke up to the sound of Noah's voice upstairs. Where's Daddy? Why didn't we go to Grandma's house? I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and prepared to face the first painter. Everything was going fine until one of the other mothers made a comment about Sarah's new friend from work. Noah overheard and asked, innocently, if James would be coming to his party. The room went silent. Sarah fled to the bathroom in tears. I stood there, holding a paper plate with half-eaten birthday cake, watching my son's face crumple in confusion. That night, after the kids were asleep, Sarah and I had our first real conversation in weeks. We need help, she said, sitting on the basement stairs. Professional help. She handed me a business card for Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a marriage counselor specializing in infidelity recovery. I know I don't deserve another chance, Sarah continued, her voice barely a whisper. But they do. She gestured upstairs, where our children slept. I stared at the card for a long time, running my thumb over the embossed letters. I'm not promising anything, I finally said, but I'll go. For them. Dr. Rodriguez's office was in a converted Victorian house downtown, all warm woods and soft lighting. She didn't look like I expected, younger, with bright red glasses and a no-nonsense attitude that cut through our defenses. Let's be clear, she said in our first session. This isn't about saving your marriage yet. It's about healing. She made us sit at opposite ends of the couch, maintaining physical and emotional distance. Before you can decide whether to rebuild, you need to understand what broke. The sessions were exhausting, draining, but somehow necessary. Like cleaning out an infected wound, painful but essential for healing. Sarah talked about feeling invisible, lost in the routine of motherhood and career. I talked about my own workaholic tendencies, how I'd started taking her presence for granted. We both cried more than we expected to. Dr. Rodriguez assigned U.S. homework, separate journaling exercises, co-parenting schedules, individual therapy sessions. Sarah started a private blog, documenting her journey through recovery and self-discovery. I joined a support group for betrayed spouses, finding unexpected comfort in sharing stories with strangers. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, things began to shift. We learned to communicate about practical matters without emotion getting in the way. Parent-teacher conferences, doctor's appointments, soccer practice schedules. We handled them with professional courtesy. The kids noticed the change, the lessening of tension in the house. Noah's nightmares became less frequent. Emma started eating lunch with her friends again. But it wasn't all progress and healing. There were setbacks, moments when the pain felt as fresh as that first day. Like when I found an old anniversary card while cleaning out the garage. Or when Sarah accidentally wore the dress she'd worn on one of her dates with James. Each trigger threatened to undo weeks of progress. Yet somehow, we kept going back to Dr. Rodriguez's office. Kept doing the work, even when it felt impossible. One evening, after a particularly intense therapy session, Sarah asked if we could talk. We sat on the back porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and orange. "I've been offered a job," she said, fiddling with her wedding ring. She still hadn't taken it off. "It's a startup focusing on sustainable fashion marketing." I nodded, wondering where this was going. "They want me to build their creative team from scratch," she continued. "It would mean longer hours at first, but what?" I prompted when she trailed off. "But I wanted to discuss it with you first," she said softly. "I don't want to make any decisions that might affect our healing process." The old Sarah would have just taken the job, assuming I'd adjust around her schedule. This small act of consideration felt significant somehow. "I think you should take it," I heard myself saying. "You're good at building things." The double meaning hung in the air between us. She smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes for the first time in months. "Thank you," she whispered, and I knew she wasn't just talking about the job. That night, I moved my pillow from the basement couch to the guest room upstairs. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a step away from the darkness, toward whatever came next. We were learning to navigate this new territory, this space between broken and healing. The kids seemed to sense the shift, like animals before a storm. Emma asked if we could start having family dinner together again, instead of eating in shifts. Noah drew a picture at school. Our family, still standing together, even if the figures were further apart than they used to be. His teacher sent it home with a note. "Noah seems more engaged lately. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." So we kept doing it, kept showing up to therapy, kept working on ourselves, kept trying to rebuild something from the ashes of what we'd lost. Not the same something. We both knew that was impossible. But maybe, just maybe, something new. Something stronger. Something real. Spring came to Chicago, melting away the last traces of a bitter winter. Sarah's startup was gaining traction, featured in TechCrunch as one of the top 20 sustainable businesses to watch. I had settled into a comfortable routine at work, no longer feeling the need to stay late just to avoid going home. The kids were doing better. Not perfect, but better. Then the texts from James started. They began innocently enough, a simple, "I miss you," that Sarah immediately showed me, hands trembling. But they escalated quickly, fueled by alcohol and bitterness. "You ruined my career," one read. "The least you could do is talk to me." Sarah blocked his number, but he kept finding ways to reach her. New phone numbers, email addresses. even LinkedIn messages. Then one Tuesday afternoon, Emma called me in panic. "Dad, there's a man W. atching me at soccer practice," she whispered. "He looks like the one from that night." I left work immediately, breaking every speed limit between downtown and the school. James was there, leaning against his BMW, looking disheveled and angry. I called the police before approaching him. Sarah's brother, a former college linebacker, on speed dial as backup. "You need to leave," I said, keeping my voice steady despite the rage building inside me. He laughed, a hollow sound. "Or what? You'll tell my wife?" Too late for that. The police arrived before things could escalate, but the damage was done. Emma quit the soccer team the next day. That evening, as I helped Noah with his homework, Sarah came into the kitchen with a determined look. "I think we should move," she said, opening her laptop to show me real estate listings. "San Diego. My company's opening an office there." I started to protest. "My job, the kids' schools, our families." "Mike," she interrupted softly, "we need a fresh start. All of us." She was right, I realized. Chicago held too many ghosts, too many painful memories. The restraining order against James was a Band-Aid, not a solution. Dr. Rodriguez agreed that a change of environment could be beneficial. But, she warned, running away from problems doesn't solve them. You need to be running towards something. We spent the next month planning, making lists, weighing pros and cons. I spoke with my company about remote work possibilities, something that had become more common post-pandemic. The kids had mixed reactions. Noah was excited about living near the beach. Emma was harder to convince until we found a high school with an amazing arts program. My parents were surprisingly supportive. Sometimes, my mother said, you need to leave to find your way back to each other. We sold the house quickly, the real estate market was hot, and our suburb was desirable. Sarah's startup arranged a temporary apartment in La Jolla while we looked for a permanent place. The day we left Chicago, we drove past Maggiano's one last time. Sarah reached over and squeezed my hand. We didn't need words to understand what we were leaving behind. The cross-country drive became an unexpected bonding experience. 4 days of audiobooks, car games, and roadside diners. Emma taught Noah how to spot license plates from different states. Sarah and I took turns driving, sharing comfortable silences and cautious conversations. San Diego greeted us with sunshine and ocean breezes. Our temporary apartment overlooked the Pacific, the constant sound of waves a soothing backdrop to our new beginning. The kids adapted faster than we expected. Noah joined a junior surf club, proudly showing off his wetsuit. Emma discovered a passion for marine biology during a school field trip to the Scripps Institution. Sarah's office was a converted beach house, all glass and light and possibility. I set up my home office in the SP, our room, finding that I actually preferred remote work. Slowly, carefully, we started rebuilding our family routines. Sunday brunches at the local cafe became a tradition. Family beach walks every evening, watching the sunset. Movie nights where we all piled onto the couch. No more separate seating arrangements. Dr. Rodriguez connected us with a colleague in San Diego, Dr. Chun, who helped us continue our therapy. "I see a different energy in you both," she observed during one session. She was right. The ocean air had cleared away some of the heaviness we'd carried from Chicago. One evening, about 6 months after the move, Sarah and I sat on our balcony. The kids were inside, arguing good-naturedly over a video game. "I never properly apologized," Sarah said suddenly, her eyes fixed on the horizon. "Not for everything. Not for how deeply I hurt all of you." I waited, letting her find the words. "I was lost," she continued, "feeling invisible, unappreciated. But that's no excuse." She turned to face me, tears gleaming in the twilight. "You and the kids deserve better. I'm so sorry, Mike, for all of it." I took her hand, remembering all the times I'd pulled away from her touch. I wasn't perfect either, I admitted. I stopped seeing you, really seeing you. We sat in silence, listening to the waves and our children's laughter. We're different people now, she said finally. Better people, I hope, I added. The next morning, I call a local jeweler. 2 weeks later, on a quiet stretch of beach at sunset, I got down on one knee. Not to propose, we were still married, technically, but to offer Sarah a new ring, a symbol of a new beginning. The kids watched from a distance, Emma filming on her phone. I can't promise it will be perfect, I said, heart pounding, but I want to try again. Really try. Sarah's hands shook as she removed her old wedding ring. The new one was simpler, a smooth platinum band with a small diamond. No ornate designs like the first one, just clean lines and quiet strength, like us stripped down to what really mattered. That night, we had a small celebration dinner at home. Noah made toast. Literally, it was the only thing he knew how to cook. Emma created a playlist of songs about second chances. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. We still had therapy appointments, still hit rough patches. Trust was a daily choice, a conscious effort. But watching my family around the dinner table, laughing and whole, I knew we'd made the right choice. Sometimes you have to break apart completely to rebuild something stronger. Sometimes the longest way around is the shortest way home. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, you get a second chance to write your own ending. Not perfect, but real. Not what we planned, but what we needed. A new story, written in ocean air and California sunshine. Written in forgiveness and effort and hope. Our story,